good morning. I'm Deborah DeBoer. I am the Director of Education. I'm the Director of Special Projects. I do a lot of interesting things here at NASBAR these days. I am delighted to be speaking with Rafay Qamar this morning. And I'm going to start by saying, Rafay, you and I don't know each other very well at all. So I'm going to start by asking you to describe a little bit about your real estate journey.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. We've been looking forward to this for quite some time.
We have.
Been going back and forth. I am an immigrant. I moved to U.S. in '05. English is my third language. So just from the beginning, all the odds were stacked against me. Came here for education, came here for college, went to DePaul University, started to get into banking, finance world. My degree is in business and finance. But just really quickly realized that wasn't really the path I wanted to take. It wasn't gratifying. There wasn't much that I was getting out of it, long hours, but I just felt like something was missing, right? I mean, it just wasn't, like I said, gratifying. So in 2014, I resigned and got my license and got into real estate cold turkey. Didn't have the typical 6-month savings, or as they say. I just jumped straight into it, and that was my year one. I started with Coldwell Banker, which is one of the great companies out of Winnetka, and first year I was Rookie of the Year, about $10 million. And the whole business was built just on cold calling, prospecting. I wasn't allowed to reach out to any of my past clients. We had a very strict NDA with the bank. As I mentioned, I'm an immigrant, so I didn't have any past clients, no high school friends, no family, no sphere of influence. So this was all built through Yellow Pages or connections or Chamber of Commerce or just grit, as they say. I believe there are a lot more people buying and selling that you don't know than people that you do know. So I just turned to that motto very quickly, that let's see if I can connect with people that are looking to buy that I don't know, that are looking to sell that I don't know, and then start from there. So that's really how I started the journey, and 2014 was year one. It didn't matter if it was a $1,200 lease in Loyola, or a $2,000 lease in Schaumburg, or $80,000 condo in West Town. I was driving anywhere and everywhere, putting in 50, 60, 70 hours. And I'm fairly certain that the first couple of years I worked 7 days a week without any day off, 7 a.m., 8 a.m. to like 9 p.m. every day.
Let me interrupt you. What motivated you to do that? Why did you work so hard?
I feel like there's something called Brian Buffini talks about in his book, The Immigrant's Edge. I just think when you leave everything behind and you just start from zero, you just have a lot of proving to do, not to people but to yourself.
Okay.
And I just think that was just something that was kind of constantly on my back, that listen, if I'm getting into this, then I just have to prove my worth and I have to make sure that this is the right decision. So it's almost like burning your ships, right? So I just had to burn my ships. And I thought this was the only way to do it. It's just to go all in and not think about it and not just have a balanced life. Truly believe that the first couple of years would be very unbalanced. It'll be completely out of balance, and then eventually we can start putting structure and pieces in play, which can bring a little bit more balance. 10 years later, still not the case. Still running around, so far from it, but I'll continue on my journey here with you. So 2015 did about $15 million and opened up my first real estate brokerage. That was a RE/MAX office I opened in Skokie. I purchased one of the franchises. As you know, you need to be in real estate 2 years before you can get your managing broker's license. So I was only a year, so I had to partner up with someone. And continued building the team, did about $20 million that year. 2017 opened a second franchise office, which was in West Loop. The idea was to have urban and suburban connections so we can bridge the gap for people that are looking to move from the city to urban markets and vice versa. So we can capture both markets. And at that point, when we were two brokerages, I had personal production of about $34 million. I had one team member. We had about 60 agents between both brokerages, and the organization was doing shy of about $110 million. Fast forward, started seeing writing on the wall. The era of brokerages or mini brokerages or mom and pop, it's just on the decline. That's just my personal sort of analysis on that. So in 2018, 2019, December 2018, early 2019, sold my brokerages to my partners, transitioned over to Compass because I wanted to partner with the biggest name and a more progressive company. it was me, Jana Pierce, my co-founder. Shout out to her. She's helped me out quite a bit. We transitioned over to Compass. Our first year we did $35 million. Second year we did $80 million. Third year we did $115 million. Last year we did $100 million. This year we're on track to do $200 million. We've doubled our goal since. Currently today we have a team of 40 people. That's 36 agents, 4 staff members. We own and operate out of our private headquarter in Evanston, which is a 10,000 square foot former CrossFit gym. We turned that into a real estate office. Really cool space. We would love for you to stop by one of these days.
I would love to stop by.
We've got a really cool setup where we've got a massive bar in the middle, and the back half is connected with about 40, 50 desks and other ancillary businesses, and the front half is really for training, education, lounging, and hanging out. And that brings me here today to have an interview with you.
You know, there was a big space in there that you sort of glossed over. During some of that period of time, business got really hard. Mm-hmm. And you just sort of didn't even blink an eye under that period of time when business got really hard. Mm-hmm. How did that happen that you just kind of kept cruising along during that period?
Yeah, so, I think one of the biggest blessings was the fact that I started when the business wasn't easy. I feel like a lot of people got in business after the COVID boom, essentially, and anything you could put in the market would sell with multiple offers. Any buyer you have wants to submit an offer because the rates were 2%, 2.5%, 3%, right? I mean, this was the easiest market. So here's a stat, right? There's 87% failure rate in real estate, as you know. Well, that's been gauged looking at 10-year timeline, a decade, going back 10 years. Now, the past 10 years, if you look at the history, that's been the bullish 10 years we've ever had. That's the biggest bull 10-year run we've had. So in the best market, if the failure rate is 87, imagine when the dust settles, right? Things are going to get a little bit more difficult. So going back to 2014, I think we were coming out from rock bottom. 2010, 2012 really was rock bottom. So we saw a lot of foreclosures still. The market was not as high. The average price points were still relatively lower. We still had to fight to make sure the listings would sell because there was more listing and more inventory than buyers. We still had to make sure for buyers we negotiated a good deal because people weren't just jumping on all these listings. So that really taught me the art of negotiation. And I think one of the biggest strengths that I have really is when my clients hire me, they get one of the best negotiators, not to be braggadocious here or have any bravado, but I truly believe that if I am competing with someone, I can really negotiate the best deal possible without leaving money for the clients. But to answer your question, I think that's just how it's been. It's just rolling your sleeves up, understanding that markets, they're going to be good markets, bad markets. When it's a good market, it's a seller's market. Everyone's getting a great deal on listings. When it's a bad market, that's the time for buyers and investors. So we just have a massive database of about 110,000 people, and we're always looking for the right timing for certain clients. The idea is to be top of mind, tip of tongue at all times, and when it's right time, you have a pool of buyers and you reach out to them right there and be like, hey, listen, now it's time. Let's enter the market again. You're looking for investments. This is the right time. The cap rates are looking good. You're looking to sell the property. Hey, market values have gone up. Let's enter the market. Let's see if we can get you multiple offers on your property. I hope that answers the question.
That does answer the question. Yeah. Are you doing a commercial as well?
We're doing very limited commercial. We do mostly apartment complexes, not any industrial or warehouses. But I would say we're about 80% residential and about 20% apartment complex and commercial.
You interested in commercial?
I like the idea of commercial. I think it's a slow play. It's a bit of a slow burn. I think there's not much emotion in that, which I like. Oftentimes when you're helping people purchase residential property, first-time buyers, first-time sellers, there's a lot of emotion. I think with commercial, it's very, as a matter of fact, it's very logical, it's very rational, it's number-based. I like working with analytical people. I think I'm analytical myself as well. So really, as long as I can put in a case study, and this number makes sense, this property makes sense, this is a cash flow, this is a cap rate, this is the market cap rate, all of that makes sense. So we do have that knowledge, and we can certainly have the tools and instruments to really advise a seasoned investor, not a first-timer, to really show them what is a good deal and what's not.
You talked about being a good negotiator. Tell me your definition of what a good negotiator would be.
Well, in layman's term, I would say just someone who can truly understand what a consumer is looking for, what a client is looking for, and then really implementing it to get the best results. So I think the best negotiation would be if you're telling me, listen, I'm not going to pay X amount, over X amount, and then just going and finding the best deal possible. Or you saying, listen, this is my budget, get me the best deal possible for that, and then making sure that happens. I think too often real estate agents either talk themselves out of a sale, or they will go and try to negotiate something when the clients aren't even asking them to do that. So it's really understanding what the objective is, what the mission is. I'm certainly not going to let a deal fall apart because I'm trying to negotiate a good deal for my client. But if my client gives me instructions and tells me this is what the objective is, then we'll go and make sure that that's maxed and pushed to the limits.
In terms of talking about objectives, we're not only talking about money, are we? We're talking about some other things as well, aren't we?
Well, absolutely. Sometimes it's lifestyle. Sometimes it's as little as I want that piece of furniture left behind. Sometimes it's timings. Sometimes it's I can't move in before I sell this. There's on average 22 negotiations in an average transaction. So you need someone who's very professional and seasoned and understands all realms of real estate. Someone who has a significant amount of transactions under their belt to make sure that they're negotiating properly. Because it's not just price, you said. That's absolutely accurate. It's so much more than that. Price is just tip of the iceberg. That's just the first point. There's so many points behind it. It's negotiating the inspection credits. It's negotiating appraisal values. It's negotiating closing timelines. It's negotiating post-close possessions, pre-close possessions. There's so much more that goes into it than just negotiating the price. And that's why, coming back to the first point, it's really understanding what the client's looking for and what's best for them, and then negotiating the best scenario for them. And it's really a partnership.
I have never heard anyone say that before, that there are 22 points to negotiate.
On average, there are about 22 points of negotiations. Now, I'm not just saying all real estate agents, but you've got the attorney. There's back and forth on attorney review. There's inspections. There's back and forth on inspection paperwork. There's the initial conversations. There's the negotiation on earnest money, negotiation on attorney inspection review, negotiations on tax credits, negotiation on closing dates. They're on average final walkthrough issues. On average, there's about 22 negotiations. We just don't see that, but there's a lot happening behind the scenes.
We also don't talk about that, Rafi. And I've been thinking, I've been doing a lot of talking about buyer's agreements and talking about that we are very poor in the industry altogether about defining what our value is.
Absolutely.
To our clients. And our clients looking at us as our value is that we open the door. And what you just said is, what we never tell people is, there are, and I'm going to use your figure, there are 22 things that we're going to talk about that we have to address during this transaction that are going to bring you value, that I know how to do, that are going to bring you value in the end to get you your what you want in the end.
Absolutely. Because oftentimes clients are hiring us, listen, I'll hire you if you can get me this property for this much. Well, it's not just the price. There's so much more on it.
There's so much
more on it. It's like saying, listen, get me a 5% interest rate. Well, how about the closing costs on the back end? How about everything, all the costs are being wrapped in a loan that you're going to have to pay amortize over a 30-year period? That could be tens of thousands of dollars, if not multiple seven-figure expenses. So on a bigger loan. So I really do believe there's a lot more that the clients don't see. And that's why it's very important to educate and sit down and not just open the door, like you said. Here's the problem. First of all, I think real estate agents are dime a dozen. There's so many. There's a joke, you can't really walk in the city a block without running into 4 to 5 real estate agents, right? It's in New Trier district, for every house, there are 5 real estate agents, right? These are stats and figures out there. So I really believe that there needs to be a higher barrier to entry. I truly believe
I've heard that before from lots of people.
You can't just pay $500, 90 hours, 100 hours of education. Now you can go and sell someone's largest asset, right? That's a lot of responsibility. You do it wrong way. That's really ruining a lot of things. It's a chain of effects, butterfly effect, right? So I think, first of all, there should be, the barrier to entry should be a lot more, it should be higher. Maybe more expense. Maybe the license should cost more. Shouldn't be just $300, $400, $500. Above all, I think the exam should be significantly harder. If you're trying to practice financial advising or buy and sell securities, you have to have Series 6 and 7 and all these different designations and renewals. These are not easy exams. So we definitely want to make sure that's set in place. And I think the most important thing is really allowing people not to go off on their own. I think they should really have to part with a team and have some sort of shadow work for a year. Really earn the right to sell real estate. And that's why I just think it's so loosely thrown. It's like, oh, you're a realtor. Of course you are. Bet you're part-time. Second thing, it's 1.6 million. About a year ago, when things were really coming down and dust was settling, or if you look at 6 months back, every 4 seconds, either a loan officer or a real estate agent nationally was dropping out of business, right? That's just because the dust was settling. Things were getting difficult, so naturally that's going to happen. So I really think that these down markets, difficult markets, separate skilled agents versus people that are just in it for the ride, that just got in because the market was good, or they just got in because they saw Selling Sunset, or they just got in because they saw $1 million.
Selling Sunset has done a lot of damage, I think, to us.
It has certainly done a lot of damage, right? I mean, it's more of a, and again, we had a mastermind, we had about 100 people on it. A lot of them were interns looking to get in real estate. And the first thing I said, who watches Sunset? And everyone raised their, right? Or $1 Million Listing, everyone raised, Ryan Serhant, this and that, right? And I'm like, who thinks that is how real estate is? And a bunch of people had their hands. I'm like, that's maybe 5% of it, right? The glam part of it, the getting out of the fancy car, the wearing the nice suit, the going and showing properties. A lot of it is really prospecting. It's a boring stuff. Boring is good. There's a lot of value in boring. The more boring your business is, the more profitable the business is. Too often we have this shiny object syndrome. We got to do everything. We got to see this leads or that leads or this, right? It's really sticking to a lane and doubling down on that, and that's where the growth is, right? So there's a saying, one of my favorite saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't want to work hard.
Do it again.
Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't want to work hard.
Any day of the week.
Right? I could be the least talented person on earth, and you could be the most talented person on earth. But if I'm outworking you every single day of the week, I'm going to outrun, outwork, outproduce all of that all day of the time. Right? Michael Jordan wouldn't be Michael Jordan if he never touched the ball. Right?
And Michael Jordan practiced all the time.
Right? The 10,000 hour concept.
Yes.
I mean, right? So that's kind of going back to it. It's like, even as real estate agents, we just can't get complacent. We have to understand our data. We have to look at the hot sheets. We have to continue practicing our scripts. We have to go practice our listing presentations. We have to practice our buyer agreements and arrangements. All of that is very, very important. We shouldn't be practicing. Michael Jordan doesn't practice on the field, right, at the court. He practices 5 a.m., 6 a.m. off the field, or when the game is not taking place. That's just what's very important to understand. A lot of us are practicing on our clients, and that should be a violation. That should be enough. That should be a criminal to do that. Mm-hmm. To practice on a client and not really know what you're doing and just winging it.
How do you pick your team members? How do you pick the people on your team?
My team is an incredible set of people. We have a high barrier to entry. We set expectations very, very clearly. We have 3 principles that we hire on. The first one is work ethic. If you don't have work ethic, you're not allowed to be on the team. If anyone expects this to be a part-time job, we don't hire them. It has to be a full-time job. If anyone thinks it's less than 40 hours, they're not allowed on my team. They have to understand that this is going to be a 50, 60-hour minimum a week gig. Second thing is culture. The only one time we had to fire someone, a unanimous decision, was because of culture. This person was slanderous. She was backbiting in the sense. There's no room for that. If there's room for that, you're not selling enough real estate. So culture is very important. We don't want any toxicity in the team. And the last one is sort of longevity, which really plays. It's almost like a subset of loyalty. If we're pouring energy, effort, time, all of that into a team member, well, then we're looking to go the distance, because then it's the criteria that one day you got to pay it forward. And it's worked really well for us. We want to make sure that people understand that this is not a part-time gig. It's not just to test water. It's really a full-time career. And then we make them treat the real estate career as a career.
How do you train the people?
That's a good question. We are looking for people that are they can hold themselves accountable, but we also have group accountability. We have something called a Qamar Group Ignite Boot Camp. It's a 40-hour boot camp, and the reason we made it 40 hours is oftentimes people are coming in for an hour, 2 hours of training and then leaving and thinking that's how real estate is. We wanted to make a point that no, this is an 8-hour-a-day thing. We're going to set the sort of start it off the right foot. So they're coming in Monday. It's 8-hour thing. The first day is find your why. It's really doing your business planning, understanding how much you want to earn, dissecting that, reverse engineering that, really breaking down what needs to be done, what your goals look like, how much you need to produce, how can we produce that, and is that logical or not? Day 2 is Real Estate 101. We really show you how to work your sphere of influence. Day 3 is Real Estate 102. We show you how to work with cold calls and prospecting and how to do outbound calling. At day 4 is mostly open houses and some of the other things, and day 5 is their graduation. We put them on the field and put them to work.
25 years ago, when I worked for Steve Beard as his director of training, we did 2 weeks of training just that. And the second week was all practice. And I still have people who will come up to me. This is like the thing that warms my heart probably the best. I'll have someone come up to me and say, you know, I'm still in real estate. This is 25 years later. And I'd say, well, that's good. I love when they say I'm still in real estate.
Yeah.
And I'd say, well, okay, well, what worked? She said, it was really easy. She said, I just did all the stuff you told me to do.
Yeah.
But what it was the practice that we did. She, you know, and she said, I believed you. You told me to do it, and I did it. But it was the practice. It was that we sent them out with the skill set to do what they were supposed to do. We just didn't tell them. We actually made them practice what they were supposed to do. That was the amazing part.
First of all, everyone in our team, and we have a partner model, and I'll share that in a second, but everyone leads from the front. I will never ask a team member to do something that I have not done personally. I would never ask them to door knock or cold call or prospect or send mailers if I haven't done myself. Number 2, I think real estate is a very easy, I should say real estate is a very simple business. It's not an easy business, right? I say that because it's a handful of KPIs that we have to do. It's few things that we have to do. It's a very simple business. It's not easy because humans take path of least resistance. We get in our own way, right? We avoid and stop ourselves from doing what needs to be done. I'll give you an example. One of the KPIs, the most important KPI, top of the pyramid, is prospecting. You got to pick up the phone and make a call. Doesn't matter if it's cold call, past client, current client, or internet lead. You have to call, right? You have to talk to people. It's a contact sport. You have to speak to people. Instead of doing that, I'll get in my own way and be like, oh, let me go clean my garage, right?
Or do the laundry.
Let me go do the laundry. I haven't taken my dog on a walk. Let me go do that, right? I mean, we're doing everything that doesn't matter than what needs to be done. There's something called a Pareto rule. I'm sure you know, Deborah, you know what Pareto, 80-20 rule, right? There are 20% of tasks and activities that we as real estate agents need to do that's going to move the needle 80% of the time. The reason there's 87% failure rate is because people are focusing on 80% of the garbage, 80% of the stuff that doesn't move the needle. That's why there's failure rate. What are the KPIs? Handful of KPIs: prospecting, showings, negotiations, open houses, break breads, mailers, thank you notes, handful of stuff. And again, the social media right now, the faster you can identify what your Pareto is, what your 20% is, and double down on that and do that 50, 60, 70 hours a week, the more successful you're going to be. And it's very difficult to then put you down and not see you be successful.
We had new agents here this week, and we had someone who came in and said, I moved from California. I'm being inundated. I'm being drowned in information, and I don't know what to do most. She said, can you help me sort of organize? And I'm in front of these people, 20 people, and I'm trying to think fast on my feet. All right, what do I tell her to do? What am I in this? And I know she's drowning in information, and I'm drowning her in more information as I'm standing in front of the room. I said, okay, I'm going to just cut through all this. I said, every night, you've got business cards already? Okay. I said, every night before you go to bed, I want you to take 5 business cards and put them on your phone.
I love that.
Before you go to bed the next night, you have to give 5 people those business cards.
I love that.
I said, you can't go to bed tomorrow until you have given 5 people those business cards. I don't care if you're in the 7-Eleven at 11:45. You have to give. You can't go back home till you give that person, because regardless of all this information that you're getting, your primary responsibility, what's going to make you money and keep you in this business, is that you have to say to people, who do you know that needs to buy or sell real estate?
Absolutely.
That's your primary responsibility. So all this drowning in information is correct, but we're going to cut through all the chase of all this.
Once again, it's a simple business.
It's a simple business. That's cutting through all the noise. Do that. She said, thank you. That helps me.
I'll tell you this. When I got in real estate 2014, that was one of the objectives. You said 5. I had 3 cards at that time. I would leave them in my pocket in the morning. Every single night, I would put 3 cards in my pocket in my jacket. I didn't have the pocket squares at that time, so they were full of cards. And my objective was, I'm not coming home until I give 3 cards.
There you go.
The gold is in the database. Database is heart of your business, right? You need to build the database, whether that's through cold calling and prospecting, or whether it's sphere of influence, or meeting people at your gym, or meeting people at Starbucks, whatever the case is. Going back to what you said earlier, day 1, finding your why, doing your business planning. One of the things we do is called a SWOT analysis. I'm sure you're familiar with SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Every single person has to do that. We spend about 40 minutes on that, and then about 5-10 minutes analyzing every single person individually. That's critical for us because that really tells us what their Pareto is. What are their strengths, and what do they believe are the opportunities? What are their weaknesses, and what do they believe are the threats, right? So we can really draw a line. I'm also a Six Sigma black belt, so I can really go in any organization, I can put a lead, kind of, these are the negatives, how do I convert them into positives? So for me, it was really easy to kind of sit down with someone and be like, all right, these are your opportunities. You're telling me this is your Pareto rule. Let's focus on these 5 KPIs. These are the Qamar Group standard KPIs. You have to do them. You must do them, right, to be on the team. But these are the other ancillary ones that I think 20% of the time you can experiment with this, but 80% of the time you have to do the ones that we're telling you. These are the proven, test of time, this works, right? So that's been very, very critical for us as well. That's how kind of we build a team. We have, like I said, 40 incredibly amazing humans. Everyone has a different strength. If you've looked at our logo, it looks like a yin-yang because we truly believe in leveraging each other's strengths and weaknesses. It's almost like a work family. It doesn't feel like we wake up and go to work. It truly feels like we go leave our home to go to another home, and that's how it is. And it's really incredible. The average age of a team member on my our team is about 25, 26 right now. And that's a perfect demographic because I think the biggest wave of buyers in the future are going to be millennials and Gen Zs. So we're just kind of nurturing and curating this army of incredible brokers that are truly trained the right way, learning from the best, and they're paying it forward.
Terrific. I'm going to let you go. This was fabulous. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. I enjoyed this very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.